Okay, I think we can go ahead and get started. I know we have some folks trickling in, but we will go ahead and get started and try to answer any questions that you have. But I wanted to welcome everyone to tonight's webinar for the STARS, the Small Town and Rural Student College Network. Tonight, we're going to be focusing on understanding your financial aid award. So this session in particular is really geared towards high school seniors that are just starting to receive those admission offers, which is a very exciting time. So we want to congratulate all of you as you're receiving those acceptance letters. And then also, hopefully, you're starting to receive some financial aid awards as well. So we're going to help you try to kind of learn some terminology around financial aid and then look for some things to pay attention to as you're looking at those and comparing the financial aid awards from various schools. If you are not familiar, the STARS College Network is the Small Town Rural Student College Network. We're a consortium of 32 colleges and universities from around the country. What we focus on is really supporting rural students in the college search process. So we want more students from small town and rural areas attending colleges and looking at some of different schools around the country and just kind of, helping support students to where you might not have all of this access in your backyard, but we can all do it together virtually, which is really exciting. So tonight we've got a couple panelists with you. My name is Diane Fekkanen. I'm the Interim Director of Undergraduate Admission at Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland, Ohio. I was born and raised outside of Cleveland, Ohio in a rural area. My town was, my high school was two towns that came together and we had a graduating class of around 35 students. So very small, very rural, but it was a great experience for me as a high school student. And then navigating to college was certainly, it had its challenges, but it ended up being a great experience as well. And so when, Case Western Reserve decided to join the STARS College Network, I was really excited to be able to work with small town and rural students. And I'm excited to help you through the financial aid process. I'll turn it over to Brenda.
Hey y'all, my name is Brenda Del Rio. I'm one of the assistant directors of undergraduate admission over at Southern Methodist University in Dallas, Texas, also known as SMU. And I was born and raised in Dallas, a very inner city Dallas, so I can't say that I'm rural or from a small town at all, but I'm very passionate about access initiatives. So here I am, and it's truly a pleasure to be here with you all tonight. I'll go ahead and pass it over to Dr. Vera Hampton.
Thank you, Brenda. My name is Dr. Vera Hampton. I work at the University of California, Berkeley. I serve as the Associate Director for Diversity and Outreach. And I, too, did not grow up in a rural area. However, I'm passionate about supporting students and getting them through, especially that financial journey. So happy to be here, and I'll turn it over to Tyler.
Hello, everyone. We got a good mix tonight of panelists because we've got two people not from small towns and two people from very small towns. I'm originally from Kansas. I grew up about 100 miles from the geographical center of the United States. My high school graduating class was about 90, so we were a little bigger than Diane's high school, but my elementary school, we had 2 grades per classroom taught by the same teacher all day for all subjects. So that was my elementary school. 5 kids in my 8th grade graduating class before we went to the big local high school that pulled from, 8 or 10 smaller communities. So pretty rural out there in Kansas. So I know I'm not in Kansas anymore. Never heard that joke before, but I am really happy and really passionate to be involved in the STARS Network to answer your questions tonight. So I'm going to hand it back to Diane to get us rolling.
All right. So I'm going to start us off with just giving some overall information about financial aid and that introduction. So financial aid is money or funding that helps students pay for education expenses like tuition, books, housing, and fees. It's designed to make school more affordable if you can't cover the full cost on your own. Oh, thanks. Financial aid is often grouped into 2 main categories, and that's need-based and merit-based. Next slide, please. All right. So need-based financial aid, this is a type of aid awarded based on your financial situation. So it's important not to compare, your award offers to someone else because it's all based off of that unique situation. And it's basically how much can your family afford to pay for school? Schools and governments look at income, assets, and family size, usually through forms like the FAFSA, which we'll talk a little bit more about. And the goal is to bridge the gap between what you can afford and the total cost. And common forms are grants, so that's free money you don't have to repay, scholarship, work study jobs, and certain low interest loans. Then you have merit-based financial aid, and this type of aid is awarded based off of achievements or talent, and not your own financial situation. You can qualify regardless of income level, and schools use merit aid to reward strong applicants and also to attract talented students. And next slide. Okay. So now I want to highlight some sources of financial aid, and there's two others I included that are not on this slide, but we'll start with the U.S. federal government, which is the largest source of financial aid. They provide grants, loans, and work study programs. Aid is often need-based, and you can apply utilizing the free application for federal student aid, which is the FAFSA. And examples include Pell Grant, federal student loans, and work study jobs. And please note the student loans you are the options that you have to work out that repayment plan, which we'll talk more about. Then you have state governments. Each state offers its own financial aid programs for residents, often need-based, but some are merit-based, usually require you to attend a school in that state. And examples of this are state grants, tuition assistance programs. You have colleges and universities. So schools themselves are a major source of aid, and they can offer both need-based and merit-based aid. They may include grants, scholarships, and tuition discounts. And then some private colleges offer large aid packages as well. And examples of this are institutional scholarships or need-based school grants. Then you have private organizations. And these include companies, nonprofits, and community groups. And usually they provide scholarships, often based off of merit, background, interest, or career goals. And examples of that would be scholarships from businesses, awards from local community groups or foundations. Two that are not listed here are employers. So some employers help pay for education. They may offer tuition reimbursement or scholarships, often tied to your job or field of study. And then examples could be part-time job tuition assistance or benefits for employees, either continuing education or their children. And then military programs. So the U.S. military offers educational benefits, and they can cover tuition, housing, and other costs. Usually, that requires, of course, a service commitment. And examples of that could be a GI Bill or ROTC scholarship. So next slide. And so I'm going to highlight two areas on this slide. So a Pell Grant is a type of financial aid provided by U.S. federal government to help undergraduate students pay for college. It is a need-based. It's awarded mainly to students with significant financial need. Unlike student loans, you typically don't have to pay this back. Most recipients are students who have yet to earn a bachelor's degree. And the award depends on factors like your financial situation, cost of attendance, and enrollment status. The maximum amount is set each year by Congress. And then you have the Federal Supplemental Education Opportunity Grant. This is a U.S. federal financial aid program that provides extra grant money to undergraduate students with exceptional financial need. So it's awarded to students with the greatest financial need, often those who qualify for a Pell Grant. Like other grants, it's essentially free money as you remain eligible. Funds are given to colleges, and each school decides how to distribute them to students. Not every eligible student receives it because schools have a fixed amount each year. So applying early through the FAFSA is important. And award amounts typically range between 100 to 4,000 per year, depending on the need and the school funding. So just wanted to highlight those. And now I will turn it over to Brenda to cover loans.
Awesome. Yes, so I am here to get into the more nittier, grittier details about loans and work study and all that fun stuff. But before I do talk about loans, I always do like to preface with this advice with any and all students that I come across, which is that it is important to consider other avenues of financial assistance, including by reaching out, asking that representative if there's any additional merit consideration, including applying for those outside scholarships as well. So definitely take advantage of those opportunities before you start considering loans or jumping straight to that solution. But in the event that you are considering your loans or know that it'll be beneficial for your use, I am here to kind of tell you the difference between each loans and how that might impact you or how you might want to strategize depending on what you're offered with as well. So when you submit the FAFSA, you are subsequently reviewed for any and all federal loans. And depending on your need and your financial circumstances with your family, the Office of Financial Aid at various institutions will put together a different aid package. So while many will look similar, not all will look exactly the same. And when it comes to federal subsidized loans, the main thing that you need to know when it comes to this and the unsubsidized loan is that the subsidized loan does have that interest accrue post-graduation versus the unsubsidized loan does have that interest accrue as soon as it disperses into your student account. It is important to note that the subsidized loan is need-based, so not everyone will be offered this. Some students might be offered both loans as an option. Others will take out one over the other. Usually everyone, for the most part, is offered the unsubsidized loan. You do have the option to take out a Parent Plus loan as well with your family, and that is a family discussion. It is important to note that within the Parent Plus loan, it is credit-based. And you also have other credit-based opportunities in the form of private loans as well. These do vary by institution too, so make sure that you're asking those questions to whatever schools that you're interested in with as well. Next slide, please. So when it comes to work study, the main confusion that we get with that is that some students don't know if they have to be awarded work study in order to have a job on campus. And the answer is no. But the thing to know with work study is that the way that you earn money is different in that your income won't be reported. But you also will have that earned money, usually in the form of a biweekly paycheck in the form of those expenses. So when you are looking at your financial aid package and you see maybe $4,000 allocated for federal work study, I know a lot of students or parents tend to think that that money will automatically disperse in the student's account, kind of like a merit scholarship or a grant or even a loan in this case, but this is earned money. So usually it is best to utilize these kinds of funds that are earned from federal work study or any on-campus job for that matter for other expenses such as books, supplies, food, fund money, if you will, and anything else in between that arises. It's essentially up to you and how you navigate that. You can be offered work study and choose not to partake in the program, but still obtain another on-campus job that's not utilized through work study, or you can use your work study job as well as obtain other campus jobs as well. It is just purely dependent on availability per institution in terms of their availability for campus jobs. So you will want to make sure that you do apply early, as most of these spots can be limited as well. Next slide, please. And last but not least, state aid. So every single state does have its own unique application. For example, here, since I'm operating from the state of Texas, we have the TASFA, which is the Texas application for state aid. And so with state aid, this is a first come, first serve. So it is important to ensure that you're applying along with the FAFSA right along those deadlines, even though you'll notice that a lot of these financial aid applications won't have a harsh deadline. It is important to apply right right around the time that they do open so that you can, that you're making sure that you are being considered for all aid possible. But within state aid, each one has their own way that they function. So it is important that you do your research accordingly or ask the school as well how that might function for you. But most of these are do come in the form of free money, in the sense that state aid usually won't offer additional loans. They're looking to offer additional need-based aid in the form of grants. So it is important to take advantage of those opportunities while you can. Other than that, I'll go ahead and hand it over to Tyler.
Thank you, Brenda. So private or outside scholarships were mentioned early, and essentially private or outside scholarships, the definition of that means they're outside of the school or schools that you're applying to. They're private organizations. When thinking about applying for outside scholarships, there's a couple of things you want to keep in mind. Okay. First, you want to start your scholarship search locally. When you start locally, there's fewer number of applicants. For example, if your parent has an employer that offers scholarships to only the children of that employer, right? That's a very small applicant pool applying for a scholarship for that from that organization. Then you go a little bit wider and you go to your local organization. You talk to your high school guidance counselor, local businesses, houses of worship, civic groups. I don't care if it's a quilting club in your local community. That might be a group of folks who want to give $500 to help a student pay for college. So you go a little bit wider. Go to the internet last. Everybody's like, well, I'll find big scholarships on the internet and I'll help pay for school. Now think about this. There's a Coca-Cola scholarship out there where there might be 50,000 applicants because it's a $10,000 a year scholarship. Are you more likely to get a scholarship when you're one of 10 applicants at your parent's employer? Or are you more likely to get a scholarship when you're one of 50,000 applicants at Coca-Cola? So think about that and use your time wisely in your senior year as you apply for outside scholarships. Start locally, finish globally. Some examples of private scholarships. These are some of the big ones, but Gates Scholarship, QuestBridge, Jack Kent Cooke, Niche. These are big names that you've probably heard from your guidance counselor, from other presentations like this. They're great scholarships if you can get them. Just remember, you're competing against other applicants. This is different than the FAFSA or the CSS profile, where you just give information to those organizations who share it with the schools, and the schools look at that and determine your eligibility. Outside scholarships, you're competing against those other 10 applicants at your parent's employer, for example, to be the best applicant. Write a good essay, turn everything in on or before the deadline. I worked for a nonprofit organization for 10 years in Vermont that managed private scholarships. If your information came in at 12:01 a.m., the day after the deadline, you were in the do not review pile. If it came in at 11:59 on the day that it was due, you were in the to be reviewed. You are competing. Make sure you're following deadlines and staying on top of the application process. Go ahead and go to the next slide, please. You're going to apply to multiple schools, and you're probably going to sit down at your kitchen table with your parent or whoever's helping you with this process, and you're going to compare your financial aid offers. Remember, there are deadlines for accepting or declining offers, both for financial aid and for accepting or declining offers of admission. Be aware there are terminology differences between schools. Billed and unbilled is the same thing as direct versus indirect costs, and that's one offer letter compared to another. The language really means the same thing. The types of aid, the language is generally pretty comparable grants, scholarships, loans, work study. Those are the 4 general terms you'll see when you're comparing financial aid offers. Be aware when you're choosing what types of loans you're going to use to help pay for school, if you're going to use loans at all. Be aware that the federal student loans that were mentioned earlier in the presentation, the subsidized and the unsubsidized, if you're going to use loans, those are the least expensive and most beneficial loans you can use. Start with those first, and then determine whether private or parent or a mixture of those loans are going to how you can fund college. Some schools include loans in their first offer letters, some don't. But every student who's eligible for some form of grant, scholarship, or loan is eligible for a loan, from the richest kid to the poorest kid. It doesn't matter. Everybody is eligible for a loan. And last but not least, ask questions about that first offer letter. Make sure that anything you're being offered is not just this is a first year only scholarship. You don't get it when you're a sophomore, junior, or a senior. So make sure you're able to compare the differences in costs over the long term. So really what it's going to boil down to is, how am I going to pay for college? How are we going to do this? I've already talked about the billable versus non-billable, or direct versus indirect. Okay, gift aid, it's important to remember that's the free money. That's in grants and scholarship. It does not have to be repaid, which is a loan, or earned through work, which is work study. Cost of attendance is a word that will be thrown out a lot on a lot of award letters. That is the estimate of the total amount it will cost to go to a college for 1 year, including tuition fees, housing, food, books, supplies, and personal expenses. You look at that list, some of those direct costs billed by the college. Some of them are non-billable expenses, like plane tickets to get from Texas to New Hampshire. When you're really sitting down at your kitchen table and you're comparing 3 offer letters there on the table in front of you, calculate the net price for each school. And the net price for you is the cost of attendance. That is going to be on every offer letter. The total cost of attendance minus the gift aid, the free money, the grants and scholarships. Okay, do not subtract loans or work study. Cost of attendance, $50,000 minus the $10,000 in grants and scholarships that I'm getting means the net price for that school is $40,000. 50,000 minus the 10 in free money means 40,000 in net cost. That's how you compare an apple to another apple when you're trying to determine costs for you as a family in determining what school you choose ultimately to attend.
Great. Thank you. So now we have a couple examples of some financial aid awards. And so these are from 3 very different types of institutions. And so just to give you a little bit of variety and to give you some ideas of what some financial aid awards might look like. So this first award letter is from the University of Wisconsin. So this is a state institution. So you're going to see some typical costs here. So you'll see how they have the estimated costs here on the left side of the screen. And what's nice about this aid award that I really like is that they break out in the costs into fall, spring, and then the total academic year cost. Because as you're receiving a bill from a university, you're going to receive 2 different bills. So each semester, you're going to receive a bill from that institution. Typically, all of your financial aid that you receive is going to be split in 2 by each semester. So this is a great way to see what the out-of-pocket cost is going to be, or the total cost is going to be per semester. So what the actual bill is going to look like, and then you'll be able to minus that. So typically when you receive bills from universities, you have a couple options to where whatever remaining balance you have, you can pay that in full by the deadline that is provided to you, or you can sign up for a payment plan. So they can disperse that payment to you over typically 5 payments for the course of a semester. Usually for colleges and universities, bills will come due in July to August, depending on when the start date is for the institution. But it's roughly about a month before classes start, you will have your first bill in hand, ready to pay. So then you and your family at that time can decide if you want to opt in for the payment plan, if you want to opt in for something else, which is really I think a good idea is tuition insurance, to where you can cover insurance if for any reason you need to withdraw, that money would be refunded to you. Different things like that will be offered to you at that time. So you'll see in this award, the total academic year costs, they're totaling $30,444. This particular student, you can see they broke it out into scholarships and grants here in the first section. They've received the Buc-ee's Tuition Promise Scholarship, the UW-Madison Grant, and the Dean's Excellence Scholarship. And so that will bring they're adding up these total costs and adding up what the estimated net price is using that free money, subtracting out that free money. And then they estimate out the amount for the estimated cost for a student loan. And they break this out. This student is eligible for subsidized and unsubsidized. So this is not unusual either, and I think it's a good thing to point out that you can be eligible for both subsidized and unsubsidized. So you could have a partial amount of your loan have the no interest while you're in school, and the other part of your loan accruing interest while you're in school. So depending on what your finances are and what you might be eligible for in terms of loans. But this breakdown will show the student that they're overall the $30,000 total cost, the actual cost of attendance, minus the free money, which is the $12,492, minus the total amount in loans that they have been offered, bringing the total cost of attendance down to $12,508. So this is a nice breakdown of what you might be able to see from one institution. So here's another institution. This is Yale. So this is a no loan school. So you'll see here that there is not a loan in sight on this financial aid award. And so, but they've done things very similarly in this fact that they've done the cost of attendance up here at the top. So the total cost is the $87,275, and that is the billable costs that the student would have. And then they've separated out the non-billable costs into the $4,950, bringing the total amount to $92,222. The student has received a scholarship for $67,325, and then their total estimated cost minus the gift aid, so minus the free money, is $24,900. And then they've also gone a step further and kind of divided that up. And so a lot of schools, you will see a student share, or they will have a student expectation of an amount that they expect students to earn over summer employment, something like that, to where they can help contribute either to billable or non-billable expenses for the students. So I think that's good that they've added all of that kind of in there. They have not separated it by semesters or anything like that, but it still gives you all of the information that you're looking for, but it is presented very differently. So when you're looking at that actual cost with that total net cost, you have to do, a little bit of work to do that there. And then finally, this is our third option. So this, for this particular, this is one for our institution at Case Western Reserve. And so you will see they've done sort of similarly in terms of the billable costs up here at the top for tuition, housing, and meals. And then the unbillable costs are books and supplies, personal expenses, and transportation. And another nice point, and Tyler mentioned this earlier, the transportation costs you might see be a little bit different from institution to institution, depending on where they're located and where you're located. So for us, for example, we will like a $700, that is someone within a pretty close proximity that could probably drive to campus, might have to fly, but then you might see them up to Sometimes we'll have a transportation allowance in there for a student up to $2,000. So if this is an international student that's going to be significantly more expensive for them to travel to campus, we will increase that transportation allowance. So we try to factor some of those things into there as well. But it is something that you'll have to kind of figure that out kind of a little bit for yourself as far as what you think it might cost. And then in that award, we've done similarly the scholarships and grants. So this is the free money is here at the top in terms of a CWRU grant and a university scholarship. And then below that, you'll see are the loans. And again, the student was eligible for both subsidized and unsubsidized loans. And then working over towards the right side, you'll see they were also eligible for a federal work study, bringing the total net price out to $31,886. And so each school has a little bit differently, and you'll see this. I would say every financial aid award that you're going to receive is probably going to look a little bit differently. And that is unfortunate, but it's great to just start with a spreadsheet and start to work out the tuition costs for each school, the room and board costs for each school. What are those estimated costs for books and supplies, personal expenses, transportation, and then start doing this same sort of thing, just so you have the same system for each school. And to where when you really are, like we were saying, looking at apples to apples, you're really kind of looking at that information correctly. As far as next steps, so things that we really recommend that students do is first really have a conversation with your parents and whoever is involved in this conversation with you in your life is really to have a very frank conversation about expectations and what is affordable for you and your family, and looking over these different options. I think we had a conversation in the office the other day of one of our staff said they received a financial aid award from an institution, and they saw it and they thought, oh, there will never be able to pay this. And they threw it in the trash. And their mother found it in the trash and brought it back out and said, hey, you didn't show this to us. Let's go over this and let's see if we can make this doable. And they did, and it was the student's first choice. And so they were able to make it work out. So don't make assumptions and really have to have that hard conversation with your family or with whoever's involved in the conversation. So I think that's one of the important things you will see when you fill out the FAFSA form or any other financial aid forms that might be required, that the government will estimate an amount that they estimate that you and your family can afford to pay for college each year. And that might not be something that's actually doable depending on some of the aid offers that you're receiving. So really being honest about what is a viable option for you and what might not be. Some unique questions that might come up as you are going through this process. Schools might ask you for things like a non-custodial parent form or some additional information regarding your taxes or W-2s. So it's important to stay on top of those emails and respond to universities and colleges as they're asking those questions. When you are filling out those forms, you filled out the FAFSA, for example, and both of your parents or single parents or non-custodial, whatever the situation was, you filled out those forms and it was sent to all of your institutions. But they might have questions or follow-up questions that they might need from you. So sometimes on occasion, we'll have to ask for more tax information or more detail to make sure we have a really clear picture of what your family situation is and what is actually affordable for you as a student. Also, things happen. When you filled out the FAFSA, that you filled out with prior year, everyone says. So you filled it out with, I think it would be 2024 information. And so things might look very differently today than they did in 2024. So if something has changed, your finances have really changed, a parent has lost a job, things have shifted, it's important to reach out to schools and let them know that and see what it is that you can possibly do to have a more accurate representation of your finances. So contact financial aid offices, see what they can do. They might have additional forms, or like I said, have additional paperwork that you can send in to kind of verify those changes. And so they are used to dealing with that on a regular basis. And unfortunately, it is something to where you would have to contact each and every financial aid office of the schools that you're looking at. There's not one central way that you can do that. So that's important to know. And then, as we were saying, as we've said before, really get down to that out-of-pocket cost and what you're actually going to be spending for each institution, because the way it's presented can look a little differently from aid offers. So it's important to really kind of dig in and kind of do a little math on your own to see what those offers are. If anyone has any questions, please, there's the Q&A option. Please go ahead and type them in. We're happy to answer any questions that you have. I don't see any questions popping up, but you are certainly welcome to also reach out to us. All of our contact information is on the STARS College Network website, so you can visit there through the confirmation that you received, and we can answer questions outside of this as well. One of the questions that we received was, do you have any guidance about how we can negotiate more merit aid? And so again, this is going to be another one of those things that's going to be different from institution to institution. Some schools don't offer any merit aid. Other schools offer merit aid. And some you have to apply for merit aid, some you're automatically considered. So it does kind of depend on the type of situation and the type of institution that you're looking at. But if you are able, if it is an institution, a lot of times if they're a school that offers merit aid that you are automatically considered for, you can certainly reach out to that school and see if there's anything that you can do to be reconsidered for additional financial aid. Typically, when a school is offering you a scholarship or a grant, they're offering you their best offer from the onset of that financial aid award. So it's typically not something that a lot of schools will negotiate, but we're all human and we all make mistakes too. So we are happy to take a look at it and see if there's anything else that we're able to offer. So I wouldn't hesitate to reach out to the schools, do a little investigating ahead of time and see sort of what their policies are around those scholarships, and see if there was the application or a deadline or something like that needed to be met. But otherwise, feel free to reach out to either both the financial aid office, or if they're merit-based scholarships based on academic criteria, a lot of times those are handled through the admission office. So you might have to contact them as well. Another question, are scholarships offered year-round, or are they mainly seasonal around the fall and winter? So typically, scholarships are offered if you are receiving a 4-year scholarship. We usually will say 8 semesters. So we say 8 semesters rather than 4 years. So just in case a student takes a semester off, or is doing an internship or a co-op where they're not an actual student during a semester, we will go ahead and hold that scholarship for them until they return for that next semester. So it'll still be good for the 8 semesters, or equivalent to 4 years. And they're just like on the one University of Wisconsin website, they offer, or on their financial aid award, they split it into, the same thing happens with your scholarship. It will be split into half by each semester, and that's what you will receive on your bill when you see that come through.
Diane, I'm going to pop in on that scholarship question just to add a little bit, because I'm not sure whether they were asking, are scholarship deadlines year round, or they mainly fall in spring. So most private and outside scholarships, think of it like a bell curve. The deadlines will kind of start in the February timeframe. The deadlines and the number of scholarships will kind of peak kind of in the late February, early March timeframe, and then they announce the winners of those scholarships that you're competing for in kind of the early to mid-April timeframe, about the same time that schools are offering you admission. So yes, there are scholarships you can apply for year-round, but most of the application processes and the deadlines kind of happen just the same time you're applying for schools, applying to be admitted to schools, and doing your FAFSA and doing your CSS profile and doing those kind of application process things. So I just wanted to add that piece in.
Thank you. Does anyone else on the panel have an honors program at their institution that could talk to the next question? I don't know if anybody does. If not, I could touch on it. We don't have one, but we got a question in that a student was accepted for an honors program, but it is at an additional cost. If there are scholarship opportunities, but it sounds like they won't know about those scholarship opportunities right away. If they don't receive the scholarship, they have to pay both the program and the college fees without any financial help. Should they accept the program with the risk of paying extra? I don't know if
Can
anybody.
help answer that a little bit. We do have our own honors program here at SMU, but it doesn't cost extra for any students that are interested in joining. But I will say it does sound like a matter of investment at this point, just truly asking yourself, how badly do I want to be a part of this specific honors program? I will say it sounds like you're a wonderful student, so it's likely that you were also invited into other honors programs with the other schools that you probably applied to. So my personal advice to you would be to just ask yourself, how badly do I want to be at the University of Arizona? Do I really see myself thriving? Will the honors program pay off in its own way, even without the tentative scholarships? Or am I also equally as happy at another school in another honors program that doesn't require additional money in that sense?
Thanks for sharing that, Brenda. I was like, we have one too, but it doesn't cost. So, yeah.
Great. Well, I want to thank everyone for coming out and attending tonight, and especially on St. Patrick's Day of all days. So we appreciate everyone being here. Please reach out if you have any additional questions, and have a great night.